Welcome, all you dedicated UPSC aspirants, to another crucial session of the Deep Dive.
Hello, everyone.
Think of this as your high-yield briefing on the key current affairs you need to know. Today, we're covering May 5th, 2025, Part 1.
Right. And you might find some of these topics familiar. That's actually a good thing. Revision is absolutely vital for cementing this knowledge for the UPSC exams.
Exactly. It's all about building those connections.
Absolutely. Consistent review helps you integrate these facts into a broader understanding.
So, what's on our agenda today? We're going deep, starting with turbidity currents in submarine canyons,
Then we'll head over to Africa to discuss Angola.
followed by some cutting-edge science, ultramagnets, spintronics, and valleytronics.
Then we'll look at the geological unrest at Camp Flegrei.
And the challenges of microgravity for humans in space.
We'll also cover developments at the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, or ICAR.
Touch upon the traditions and recent events at the Lehri Devi Temple.
Examine Pakistan's Abdali missile system.
Explore the plans for the new Indian Institute of Creative Technology, IICT.
And finally, unpack the complexities of insider trading. It's quite a range.
It really is. Our mission, as always, is to pull out the core information you need, provide that essential context, and maybe highlight some links you can use for your preparation.
Exactly. Making those connections is key for UPSC.
All right, let's dive in. First up, turbidity currents in submarine canyons. There's some surprising news here, isn't there?
Yes, quite striking. A recent study found direct evidence that these currents are actually transporting microplastics into the very deep sea.
Wow. Even far from rivers. The source mentioned the Whittard Canyon off Ireland.
That's right. Even in areas relatively distant from direct riverine input, it highlights a pervasive pathway for plastic pollution.
That's concerning. So, for clarity, what exactly are these turbidity currents?
Well, think of them as rapid underwater flows, heavily laden with sediment, almost like underwater avalanches, really.
Underwater avalanches. Okay, that paints a picture. What typically sets them off?
They can be triggered by several things: earthquakes, shaking the seabed, submarine landslides, or even just slope failures where sediment becomes unstable.
And they have distinct characteristics.
Definitely. As they flow, the sediment makes the water much denser and obviously less transparent. That's the turbidity. They're also highly erosive.
Erosive enough to carve canyons.
Precisely. They're a primary force in forming and shaping submarine canyons on the seafloor over geological time. They also deposit sediments in a specific way. Coarser, heavier material settles first, then finer particles, creating what geologists call graded bedding.
So they're major players in deep-sea sedimentation and shaping the ocean floor landscape.
Absolutely fundamental.
And these submarine canyons they create, what are their key features for, our geography prep?
They're essentially narrow, steep-sided valleys cut into the continental slopes and rises, sometimes reaching way down into the deep ocean basins. Think of them as analogous to river canyons on land, but formed underwater mainly by these turbidity currents.
Are they common?
Oh, yes, very. Globally, there are something like nearly 9,500 known submarine canyons. They cover about 11% of the continental slope area worldwide, so a significant feature.
And does their shape vary depending on the geology?
It does. Canyons on active continental margins areas with more earthquakes and tectonic activity tend to be steeper and maybe shorter.
Okay.
Whereas canyons on passive margins, which are more stable geologically, are often wider and more gradual. And the steep walls of any canyon can collapse, potentially adding more sediment to fuel subsequent turbidity flows.
Interesting distinction. The source also quickly mentioned banks, shoals, and reefs. Then we just clarify those briefly.
Sure, quick definitions. A bank is a relatively flat-topped high area on the seabed, like Dogger Bank. A shoal is just a shallow area, usually sand or mud, maybe less than 10 meters deep.
Right.
And a reef, of course, is a structure built by organisms, mostly corals or algae.
Huh.
Big biodiversity hotspots, often found in places like the Pacific, sometimes on underwater mountains like guyots or seamounts. But yeah, our focus here is the canyons and currents.
Got it. So summing up the UPSC relevance for turbidity currents and canyons.
Okay, 3 main points. 1, it's fundamental physical geography, understanding the processes that shape the Earth's surface, including the ocean floor.
Okay.
2, the microplastic transport angle brings in a critical environmental science dimension, pollution pathways, ecosystem impacts. That's increasingly important.
Definitely.
And 3, it all falls under the umbrella of oceanography, a key component of the broader geography and environment syllabus for UPSC.
Excellent. Now let's shift continents and focus Angola. The context here is a recent high-level visit, right?
Yes, Pavan's first state visit to India, which also marked the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations between India and Angola. So quite significant timing.
Absolutely. And understanding nations like Angola is crucial for geopolitics and India's foreign policy, which is core UPSC material. Geographically, where's Angola situated?
It's on the southwestern coast of Africa. It has a pretty extensive Atlantic Ocean coastline.
And the capital city?
Luanda. It's a major port city, very important for maritime trade, and also a key hub for Angola's oil exports, oil being a huge part of their economy. Remember, capitals and key economic centers.
A good point, neighbors. Mapping the region mentally is always helpful.
Okay, so to the northwest, you have the Republic of the Congo, then a large border to the north and northeast with the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Sure.
To the southeast is Zambia, and directly south is Namibia.
Got it. Any major rivers we should note? Rivers often mean resources and transport routes.
The Kwango and the Kwanza rivers are particularly significant. They are important for hydropower generation and also used for some inland water transport. Definitely relevant for economic geography.
In Highest Point, sometimes those details pop up.
That would be Mount Moko, located in Huambo province.
Right. So for UPSC aspirants, the takeaways on Angola are its strategic location, neighbors, key rivers like Kwango and Kwanza, Mount Moko, and importantly, the context of India's strengthening ties with African nations.
Precisely. That state visit really underscores India's Africa outreach, a key theme in international relations study for the exams.
Okay, let's pivot now to some really advanced science. Altermagnets, spintronics, and valleytronics. Sounds like we're pushing the frontiers here.
We certainly are. There's been some exciting research out of HKU's Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. They've experimentally observed a 2D layered altermagnet that works at room temperature.
A room temperature altermagnet. That sounds complex. Let's break it down. What are altermagnets?
Okay, so altermagnets are a relatively new class of magnetic material. They fall under antiferromagnets, meaning their atomic magnets point in alternating opposite directions, canceling out any large-scale magnetic field.
Right, unlike a fridge magnet.
Exactly. But what makes altermagnets special is they show spin splitting, meaning electrons with opposite spins have different energies even without needing strong spin-orbit coupling effects or an overall magnetic field.
How does that work then?
It arises from the specific crystal symmetry and the interactions between magnetic atoms. It leads to something called C-paired spin valley locking. Basically, an electron's spin state gets linked to its valley, a specific low energy point in its allowed momentum states because of the crystal structure.
And why is that significant?
Because it offers the best of both worlds, potentially. You get the stability and long spin lifetimes typical of antiferromagnets, combined with this useful spin-splitting feature. That combination is highly desirable for spintronics.
Okay, let's define spintronics then. We hear the term a lot.
Spintronics, short for spin transport electronics, is all about using not just the electron's charge, like in conventional electronics, but also its intrinsic spin, its quantum magnetic moment.
Using both charge and spin.
Yes. The idea is to use spin to store, process, and transfer information. Think of it like adding another layer of control beyond just turning current on and off.
What are the potential advantages of doing that?
The big promises are much faster speeds, significantly higher data storage density, and lower power consumption compared to traditional electronics.
Are there actual devices based on this?
Oh, yes. We're seeing development in spin transistors, spin diodes, magnetic RAM or MRAM, spin filters, even logic gates based on spin. It's an active field.
And where does the third term, valleytronics, fit in?
Valleytronics is another emerging field, kind of parallel to spintronics. It aims to use the valley degree of freedom, those energy minima we mentioned, as a way to encode information.
So using the valley like using spin?
Sort of, yes. Different valleys could represent binary zeros and ones. It could potentially offer another route to faster, denser information processing.
So this discovery of a room temperature altermagnet seems like a key piece enabling these future technologies, the UPSC connection.
It's squarely in advancements in material science and nanotechnology. Understanding these concepts is important for the science and tech part of the syllabus. Think about potential technological disruptions in computing, data storage, and how they might impact India's tech landscape and R&D goals.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, from the nanoscale, let's zoom out to large-scale geology. Campi Flegrei in Italy. It's been showing signs of unrest.
Yes, Campi Flegrei, which is near Naples, is a very active volcanic region. It's known for periods of Cyclical unrest, we saw land uplift, increased seismic activity, rumbling sounds, notably between 82 and 84, and then again more recently from around 2011 up to 2024.
And this unrest is linked to underground fluid pressure.
That's the general understanding, yes. Movement of magma or hydrothermal fluids deep beneath the surface causing the ground to bulge and shake.
Now, Campi Flegrei isn't your typical cone-shaped volcano like Vesuvius nearby, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a key point. It's not a single mountain. It's a large volcanic system within a huge depression called a caldera.
A caldera.
Yes, a massive basin, roughly 12 to 15 kilometers across. It was formed by an enormous eruption about 39,000 years ago. A really huge event. Some scientists even speculate it might have contributed to the decline of Neanderthals.
Wow. That puts its scale into perspective. Where exactly is it?
A good chunk of it, maybe a third, is actually under the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is part of the Mediterranean.
And it's significant in European terms.
Hugely significant. It's the largest active volcanic caldera in Europe. It's considered larger and, in some ways, more active than its famous neighbor, Vesuvius.
Has it erupted in historical times?
The last eruption was quite a while ago, in 1538. That event actually formed a new hill called Monte Nuovo. Interestingly, that eruption came after about 3,000 years of quiet. Shows you the long timescales involved.
It's often called a supervolcano. What does that mean in practical terms?
That classification means it has the potential for an eruption far larger than typical volcanic eruptions. A super eruption from Campi Flegrei could have global consequences, injecting massive amounts of ash and gas into the atmosphere, potentially disrupting climate worldwide, affecting agriculture, and so on. A major hazard scenario.
Definitely relevant for disaster management studies. The source mentioned Bradyseism. What's that?
Bradyseism literally means slow movement. It refers to the gradual rising or falling of the ground level, caused by the filling or emptying of underground magma chambers or changes in fluid pressure. Campi Flegrei is famous for this phenomenon. It's a key indicator scientists monitor.
So for UPSC, Campi Flegrei is a case study in caldera, volcanism, supervolcanoes, geological hazards, Bradyseism, and European geography.
Exactly. Understanding these concepts and examples is crucial for physical geography and disaster management sections.
Right, let's move from Earth's inner workings to outer space. Microgravity. There's some Indian research highlighting its effects on the human body.
Yes, research from the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology. They've developed a 3D computational model showing that microgravity consistently tends to increase our core body temperature.
Increase it. That's interesting. And vital for long space missions, I imagine.
Absolutely crucial. Managing astronaut health over months or years in space is a major challenge.
Now, microgravity is often called weightlessness, but it's not actually zero gravity, is it? That's a common misconception.
A very important distinction, yes. Astronauts in orbit are still subject to most of Earth's gravity, around 89% of surface gravity at typical ISS altitudes.
So why do they float?
Because they and their spacecraft are in a constant state of free fall around the Earth. They're continuously falling towards the planet, but also moving sideways so fast that they keep missing it. That continuous fall creates the sensation of weightlessness.
Like Newton's cannonball thought experiment.
Precisely. It's the free fall, not the absence of gravity.
And this environment significantly affects the human body.
Profoundly. It impacts bone density, muscle mass, the cardiovascular system, metabolism, fluid distribution, and as the IS research highlights, thermoregulation.
Thermoregulation, the body's ability to maintain a stable core temperature.
Exactly, which is vital for health and performance, especially during long space flights.
Tell us about the IS model. What does it simulate?
It's a sophisticated 3D computer simulation of how heat moves within the human body, specifically under microgravity conditions. It factors in things like sweating, shivering, the effect of clothing, heat generated by organs, and how blood flow shifts in weightlessness.
What did the model find?
Key findings include that hands and feet tend to get cooler over time in space, while the head, abdomen, and the core body region get warmer.
Warmer core temp, okay.
And crucially, during exercise, core temperature rises faster in microgravity than on Earth. The model projected that baseline core temp could go from about 36.3 degrees C up to 37.8 degrees C over 2.5 months.
That's a noticeable rise.
Yes, and with exercise, it could push towards 40 degrees C, which is getting into a dangerous fever range.
Did they check this against real astronaut data?
Yes, they validated the model using physiological data collected from astronauts on the Mir space station and the ISS. The model's predictions matched the real-world observations quite well. It also helps estimate the Universal Thermal Climate Index, or UTCI, for astronauts.
So the UPSC connection here is clearly space science, technology, human physiology in extreme environments, and the challenges India and other nations face in planning long-duration space missions, like Gaganyaan or future projects.
Absolutely. Understanding and mitigating these physiological effects is critical for the future of human space exploration.
Okay, back down to Earth, focusing on agriculture in India. News from the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR.
Yes, a significant development. ICAR has successfully developed 2 new varieties of rice using genome editing technology.
Genome editing in rice. That sounds important. First, maybe a quick refresher on ICAR itself for our listeners.
Sure. ICAR, the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. It's the main organization in India for coordinating and managing research and education in agriculture and related fields like horticulture, fisheries, animal sciences.
It has a long history, right?
It does. It was established back on July 16, 1929, originally as the Imperial Council of Agricultural Research, following recommendations from the Royal Commission on Agriculture. Its headquarters are in New Delhi.
And it oversees a large network.
A vast network. India has one of the world's largest agricultural research systems, and ICAR is at the apex, coordinating around 113 research institutes and 74 agricultural universities across the country.
Its impact on India's food production has been substantial over the decades.
Immense. The figures are quite dramatic. Comparing 1950-51 to 2021-22, food grain production increased over 6 times, fruits and vegetables over 11 times, fish production nearly 22 times, milk 13 times, and egg production an incredible 70 times. These gains have been fundamental to India's food and nutritional security, a huge success story relevant to economic development studies.
Definitely. Now, about these new genome-edited rice varieties, what's special about them?
Okay, the first one is called DRR Dan 100 Kamla. It's developed from a popular variety, Samba Masuri. The key benefits are it harvests 15 to 20 days earlier, and yields are about 25% higher, potentially around 8 tons per hectare.
Earlier harvest and higher yield. That's a big deal for farmers.
Huge. Plus, it produces about 450 to 500 more grains per panicle, which is the flowering head of the rice plant. The second variety is derived from another widely used strain, MTU 1010.
So the UPSC relevance here ties into agricultural science and technology, the role of biotechnology like genome editing, food security strategies, and the contribution of government R&D institutions like ICAR to agricultural progress.
Precisely. It touches on technology's impact on agriculture, a core area for the syllabus.
All right, let's shift focus now to Goa and the Larai Devi Temple. There was a tragic incident there recently.
Yes, sadly. A stampede occurred during the annual Larai Jatra procession in Shirgaon village, North Goa, leading to fatalities and injuries. A very unfortunate event.
Terribly sad. Can you tell us about the temple itself and its significance in Goa?
The Larai Devi Temple is a deeply venerated site in Shirgaon village in the Baikalim area of North Goa. The main deity is Goddess Larai, considered an incarnation of Goddess Parvati.
Okay.
It holds immense cultural and religious importance locally. Architecturally, it shows traditional Goan style, and interestingly, it's seen as a symbol of religious harmony.
How so?
There's a local tradition where both Hindus and Catholics consider Larai Devi and the Virgin Mary of Mapusa to be sisters.
That's quite unique. The incident happened during the annual Jatra, which involves firewalking.
That's right. The annual Larai Devi Jatra, or Shirgaon Jatra, is famous for a ritual called Agnindivya, where devotees known as Anhams walk on fire.
Firewalking.
Yes. The festival starts with processions, dances, drumming, then a large bonfire is lit at midnight. In the early morning, the devotees walk across the hot embers, chanting the goddess's name. They believe the righteous are protected from harm.
It must draw large crowds.
Tens of thousands, yes. People come from all over Goa, and also from Maharashtra and Karnataka. It's a major event for community bonding and tradition.
Is there a specific legend behind the firewalking?
The belief is that Goddess Larai is one of 7 divine sisters who settled in Goa. Shirgaon is considered her main home, and the story goes that she performed penance by walking on fire there. The tradition names the 7 sisters and 1 brother.
So the UPSC connection, apart from the tragic social issue of the stampede itself, relates to Indian culture, religious traditions, festivals, and the challenges of crowd management at large gatherings.
Yeah.
Also the geography and cultural context of Goa.
Exactly. It brings together cultural studies, social issues, and governance aspects related to public safety.
Okay, next topic. The Abdali Missile. This relates to Pakistan's military developments.
Correct. Pakistan recently claimed they conducted a successful training launch of the Abdali weapon system.
What type of missile is the Abdali or Had-2?
It's described as a short-range, road-mobile ballistic missile. It uses solid fuel, which generally allows for quicker launch preparation. It's developed by Pakistan's space agency, Suparco.
And its intended role.
It's designed primarily for tactical use on the battlefield. Reports indicate it's capable of carrying both conventional high-explosive warheads and potentially nuclear warheads.
The range claimed in this recent test seems higher than before.
Yes, Pakistan claimed a range of 450 kilometers this time. Earlier estimates usually put its operational range around 180 to 200 kilometers. So, if accurate, that's a significant increase.
Worth noting for regional security, what about its technical features?
It reportedly uses an advanced inertial navigation system for guidance, aiming for high accuracy, a CEP, or circular error probable, of maybe 100-150 meters is claimed. Being road mobile, launched from a TLO, transporter erector launcher, means it can be deployed relatively quickly and is harder to target before launch. Payload capacity is estimated between 250 and 500 kilograms. It's been operational with their Army Strategic Forces Command since around 2005.
So for UPSC, this falls under understanding India's neighborhood, regional security dynamics, advancements in defense technology, particularly missile systems, and their implications for international relations.
Precisely. Monitoring these developments is crucial for analyzing India's strategic environment.
Moving towards our final topics. First, a new educational initiative, the Indian Institute of Creative Technology, or IICT.
Yes, the government has announced plans to establish this institute in Mumbai, and notably it's being modeled along the lines of the IITs and IIMs.
Setting a high benchmark then, what's its specific focus?
It's set to be India's first dedicated national institute for the AVGC XR sector. That's animation, visual effects, gaming, comics, and extended reality.
So a focus on the creative digital industries.
Exactly. It aims to be a national center of excellence in Mumbai, really pushing education and research standards in creative technology, much like the IITs and IIMs did for engineering and management.
What's the broader mission behind it?
Two main goals, it seems. One, to foster the creation of original Indian intellectual property, drawing perhaps on India's cultural heritage. And two, to cultivate the skilled talent needed for the booming global digital content industry.
Makes sense. What kind of infrastructure will it have?
The plans mention specialized facilities like immersive studios, dedicated labs for animation and gaming, virtual production setups, professional editing and sound suites, and advanced smart classrooms.
And the location?
The permanent campus is planned for Goregaon, Mumbai, within the Dadasaheb Phaka Chitranagari, also known as Film City, on about 10 acres. But it will start operations initially from a temporary site in the Bandra Kurla complex, BKC.
Okay. The UPSC relevance seems clear. Education policy, skill development, the growth of creative industries, the intersection of technology and creativity, economic development, and even urban planning aspects for Mumbai.
Yes, it touches on multiple facets of India's development strategy in the modern economy.
And finally, our last topic, insider trading. There's recent news involving the Adani Group.
That's right. Reports indicate SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, is investigating several Adani Group companies and Gautam Adani's nephew over alleged breaches of insider trading regulations, specifically potentially sharing price-sensitive information before it was public.
Let's clarify the core concept. What constitutes insider trading?
Essentially, it's the illegal practice of trading stocks or other securities of a public company based on material non-public information about that company.
Material non-public information, what does that mean exactly?
Material means the information is significant enough that it would likely influence an investor's decision to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Non-public means it hasn't been disseminated to the general investing public.
And SEBI has a definition for an insider.
Yes, broadly, an insider is anyone who has access to this kind of unpublished, price-sensitive information, UPSI, perhaps due to their job, professional relationship, or other connections to the company.
What's the main regulation governing this in India?
It's the SEBI, Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations, most recently updated significantly in 2015. These rules lay out what's prohibited and the compliance requirements for companies and insiders.
And SEBI has powers to enforce these rules.
Oh, yes. SEBI can investigate suspected cases, impose hefty fines, order disgorgement of illegal profits, and even bar individuals from trading in the market.
Could you give a simple example?
Sure. Imagine a CEO knows their company is about to announce a major merger that will boost the stock price. If they tell a friend before the announcement and the friend buys stock based on that tip, that's insider trading. Or an employee trading based on knowing quarterly earnings results before they are released.
So it's about using privileged information for unfair gain.
Exactly. It undermines market fairness and investor confidence. The key elements are usually having confidential information, trading based on it, and doing so intentionally, breaching a duty of trust.
And the UPSC relevance.
This connects directly to the Indian economy, particularly capital markets functioning, corporate governance standards, the role of regulatory bodies like SEBI, and issues around financial ethics and crime. Very important for understanding market regulation.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. We've covered a lot of ground, from oceanography to space physiology, agritech to market regulation.
It really shows the diverse range of topics relevant for UPSC preparation, doesn't it? And hopefully, connecting these dots helps you build that integrated understanding. This was our look at key items from May 5th, 2025, Part 1.
Absolutely. We aim to give you that concise yet comprehensive overview. Remember to think about the links, how environmental science impacts policy, how tech advancements ripple through the economy.
And maybe a final thought for you to consider. With these rapid advances in areas like ultramagnetism and the focus on creative tech with ICT, what kind of synergies and perhaps unexpected innovations might emerge in India's tech and creative landscape over the next few years?
That's a great question to mull over. Keep making those connections between current events and your core syllabus areas. That's the key. If you found this deep dive helpful, please do like and subscribe. It helps us bring you more analyses like this to aid your preparation.
Thanks for joining us. Keep up the hard work.